All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the JimFear138 podcast show thing. I really need to work on a new intro. It's getting a little bit old. All right. So, a bunch of shit happened this week, and everything basically exploded, and it's the end of the fucking American political system as we know it. The apocalypse, the Trumpocalypse has arrived, and we're all gonna die. There you go. All right, end of podcast. Have fun, everybody. Hug your loved ones while you still can. Make sure you kiss your children and tell them you love them and tell them that you are sorry for not trying to end this sooner. I'm going to go and be with my family. All right, bye. Nah, I'm just fucking with you guys. Well, partially. Yeah, so I really do think this is the end, guys. I think this is the end of the American political process between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. They have completely broken the fuck open both of the major parties. The Democratic Party is revealed as being the most corrupt organization since Nazi Germany. Or you know, Maoist China, or Stalinist Russia. You know, just the most corrupt, evil people you have ever met. You will ever meet in your life. This seems to happen once every generation. There's this regime of people who gain control of the government, and they are just the most cronyistic, nepotistic people in the fucking world, and they do nothing but evil with the power that they have garnered. At least once a generation. And I'm not saying that the Republican Party is blameless in this. They don't have any balls. The Republican Party could have stood up and put a stop to all of this. There were a couple of people in there, like when Ted Cruz tried to filibuster Obamacare, and he stood on the floor of the Senate for God only knows how fucking long. I think it was something like 18 hours. It was a long fucking time to just stand around and filibuster. I think he read from a children's book. Basically, the Podesta emails are some of the most damning evidence of political corruption since Watergate. Since Richard Nixon and Watergate, this is one of the most damning things to have ever happened to a political candidate. At this point, if you've been keeping up with these, if you've been keeping up with all of the bullshit that's been going on this political season, and you've been going through the WikiLeaks and paying attention to the people who do, and you're still going to vote for Hillary Clinton, I will assume that you have no morals. You have no morals, you have no ethics, you have no right to speak on moral or ethical grounds, because your compass is very clearly broken as fuck. Like, beat with a fucking hammer, and then run over with a bulldozer. I need some liquor. You're just fucked, dude. How can you vote for this woman? And a lot of people are coming around. You know, this is probably the first election in American history, or at least recent American history, last 100 years, where both of the candidates have such a low approval rating. They're both hovering around 26-30%, somewhere in there. So that's like 50 to 60% of America are going to vote one or the other. And then 50 to 40% just kind of want to kill themselves. And I'm in the kill myself camp. But I would fucking drink bleach before I would vote for Hillary Clinton. I would go up to my fucking laundry room and I would uncork that bottle of bleach and I would start fucking chugging before I pulled the lever for Hillary Rodham Clinton. She is evil. Evil. There is no other word for all of the things that she has done. Especially as revealed by these WikiLeaks Clinton Podesta emails that have been going around. And some of them might be faked. But all of them can't be, with consistent typos? Come on, dude. Come on. You're fucking kidding yourself if you think all of these emails have been faked. So, I'm considering voting for Trump. Like, the debate happened and Trump didn't act like a crazy person, which was good. He was actually acting presidential. And I really liked that little zinger. 'Cause you'd be in jail. Yeah, 'cause you'd be in jail. It was good form on Trump's part to just bash Hillary Clinton over the head with all of the evil things that she has done. But I still don't want to vote for the guy. I'm considering reluctantly, like, swallowing my vomit and pulling the lever for Donald Trump just because I'm so utterly terrified of a fucking Clinton presidency. Like, she is talking about, with her staffers, she is talking about issuing an executive order to deal with the Second Amendment. That's not good, people. That is government overreach in the fucking extreme. Like, stock up on your ammo. Buy guns now. And I know I sound like Alex Jones, and maybe some of these emails were faked, but they can't all have been faked. So some of them are true. And figuring out which ones are true and which ones are not is a very involved process that I don't have the ability to undertake personally. But what I do know is that what I have heard makes me believe that Hillary Clinton is a fucking monster. She is the physical embodiment of evil on planet Earth. She's exactly, like, she likes to get up and criticize Putin. She is exactly as bad as Putin. The only difference is she hasn't physically killed people with her own two hands. She has never pulled the trigger on anybody, to my knowledge. She might have. We know that she deleted emails herself, which isn't quite as bad as killing people, but it's still a fucking felony, and the woman belongs in jail. The woman belongs in federal fucking prison for the rest of her natural days. And not the nice prison either, like the shitty prison that doesn't get good funding. That's got like a library with one book in it, and it's the Bible. Because that woman needs to think about what she did and pray to Jesus for forgiveness. I'm an atheist, but that woman needs to pray to Jesus for forgiveness. And I can't believe anything that Trump says on a factual level. I just cannot take him seriously. I do not believe that he is telling the truth. However, there is a chance that he is. There is a slim chance that he will not be a Republican in the streets and a Democrat in the sheets. There is a slim chance that if he becomes president, he will investigate Hillary Clinton. He will get a special Department of Justice initiative or whatever the fuck it's called to prosecute Hillary Clinton for the fucking crimes that she has committed against not just the American people, but humanity in general. So I'm still undecided, I'm still wavering, but I'm leaning towards voting for Trump on the 8th simply because I am so utterly fucking terrified of a Hillary Clinton presidency. And I'm not a conservative, and I disagree with Trump on a lot of issues. I mean, a lot. I couldn't even list them all right now. It would take up the whole rest of the podcast to explain the things that I disagree with Donald Trump on. And that's just the things I've heard come out of his mouth. But if he is serious about investigating Hillary Clinton, if he is serious on cracking down on illegal immigration, if he is serious on doing all that he can to stem the flow of migrants and refugees from places like Syria, and if he is serious on protecting things like the Second Amendment, then I would take the chance that Donald Trump is serious on all of this over the certainty that Hillary Clinton will absolutely ass rape this nation to death. And another thing that I wanted to bring up here is Mike Cernovich has been pushing this thing called Op Purge Cucks. OP Purge Cucks, Operation Purge Cucks. And basically what he's saying is if the RNC and the Republican Party doesn't get behind Donald Trump and try everything in their power to get him elected within not even a month that we have before the general election, then he and the people who follow him and the people who subscribe to this Op Purge Cucks thing are going to vote Trump at the top of the ticket and leave everything else blank. They're just not going to vote for a Republican House and a Senate. And you know what? I agree with the guys on the Conservatarian podcast. It's a pretty good show. You guys should check it out. I've only listened to a couple of episodes, but they seem like intelligent guys, and I'm kind of enjoying it so far. So check out the Conservatarians. But those people who are doing this op purge cucks thing are going to be the absolute first ones to step up and go, what the fuck? Hillary's doing whatever they want, whatever she wants. How is she able to do all of this stuff? Why isn't the House and the Senate stopping her? When they fucking didn't vote in a Republican House and Senate. They left it all blank. It is the dumbest thing they could possibly do. Like, it looks like Hillary Clinton is about to win this election. According to several prominent polls out there, it looks like Hillary is about to win. By, like, the slimmest fucking margin, but people have to choose between the lesser of two evils, and there's a lot of fucking idiots, and there's a lot of fucking paid shills out there that will vote for Hillary Clinton regardless of the absolutely monstrous things that she has fucking done. And those people are going to be voting Democrat down ballot. Now, I don't subscribe to the ideology that, you know, one party is better than another. But there are key differences between the parties, and there are key approaches to policy that both parties generally have in mind, and I would prefer, I wouldn't be happy, but given the choice, gun to my head, I would prefer a Republican House and Senate with a Democratic president. And usually vice versa. Even though, like, most Democrat policies are just fucking horrible, and they're generally evil people. And they push lies, and they use arguments from emotion to make their points. But the thing is that the GOP is so fucking incompetent at what they do that I'm not even certain that a Republican House, if they swept it, they filled every seat with Republicans all the way across the nation. I'm not even certain that those fucking idiots would be able to do anything to stop Hillary Clinton. I'm just not sure. However, because I know what I do about Democrats, specifically Democrat politicians, not necessarily your average everyday Democrat. Most Democrats are pretty cool people. I'm friends with lots of Democrats. I'm friends with a few Republicans. I'm only friends with not a select number of people, but a small number of people. And most of them would fall under Democrat rather than Republican. I don't fall under either. I'm hard to fucking pin down. I don't subscribe to partisan politics. But in this instance, it seems like everything is at stake. And if Hillary Clinton is allowed to become president and the Democrats take the House and the Senate, it is over. You see what's happening in Germany, in France, in Sweden, in Denmark right now? That's going to come here. That is going to come to America. There is going to be a rise of, and yes, I don't proudly wear the moniker Islamophobia. I am afraid of Islam, and it is not a phobia, it is a reasonable fear. Yes, I'm afraid of an ideology that wants me thrown off a fucking building. Because I'm bisexual. Yeah, I'm fucking afraid of that. I'm afraid of an ideology that wants to stone me to death because I like listening to music that's made by instruments instead of just the voice. You know, I'm afraid of an ideology that treats women like second-class fucking citizens. Or third-class in some cases. I'm afraid of an ideology that's not just this quiet... Like, the difference between Christianity and Islam is that for the vast majority of people, yes, they do vote according to their principles as informed by Christianity. However, that's not necessarily mandated in the Bible. That's just a personal conviction that these people have. Islam, it is mandated that you go out into the world and spread Islam. And there are prescriptions in the Quran, things like taqiyya, where Muslims are allowed to lie to non-believers to further the interests of Islam. And if Hillary wants to bring 100 million of these people into our country, yeah, I'm fucking scared of that. I don't want to live under Sharia law. I don't want Sharia courts running around. And especially if she gets a Democratic House and Senate, then it's over. It's over. There will be no checks and balances on her, even the mild ones that the Republicans might put in. There will be no checks and balances there. She will be allowed to do whatever the fuck she wants. So this op purge cucks thing, just because they don't vote for your golden boy, your fucking god emperor, is retarded. And you idiots, you absolute fucking mongoloids, are going to be the first ones complaining when Hillary is allowed to do whatever she wants because you didn't have the fucking sense to vote against her allies on the down ballot. It's so fucking frustrating. So now everything is off the table. It's open fucking season on everybody so far as the political landscape goes. Everything is fucked. Please let the meteor strike us now, because Western civilization is fucking over, guys. It's fucking over. The Western experiment is done. And I'm sounding hyperbolic, and maybe I am being a little bit hyperbolic, but looking at the way that Hillary Clinton runs things, and looking at the way that most Democrats run things, it's not looking good. And all of this stuff is not necessarily possible, but it's absolutely plausible. It very well could happen, and there's a decent chance of it happening if these idiots don't vote in a Republican House and Senate. And that's just where it is right now. You know, so I do think that Hillary Clinton needs to lose. I'm not looking forward to a Donald Trump presidency. I think it's going to be embarrassing on a scale that has not been realized in America since fucking Hoover. But I really don't know if there is a way to fix this issue. I don't know if there's a way to fix this problem. I don't know if I don't think voting in Republicans and getting Trump to be president will repair any of this. Trump is friendly with the Clintons, or at least he was before this election. You know, before 5 minutes, like Ben Shapiro likes to say, 5 minutes ago, Trump was a Democrat. His kids weren't even allowed to vote for him in the fucking primaries because they were registered Democrat. That says something. That's important to take into account. This is just such a shit show, and everybody is fucking crazy, including me. But I'm crazy because I'm so fucking frustrated. Like, if there was a decent libertarian candidate, if it wasn't Gary fucking Johnson, Mr. What is Aleppo? And I'm not necessarily making fun of Johnson for not knowing what Aleppo is, okay? I didn't know what Aleppo is before that question came out of his lips, okay? I didn't know what Aleppo was, and he actually got a lot of people interested in foreign policy and looking up what Aleppo was by asking that question. So that's not necessarily a strike against him. It just made him look really fucking stupid. And then there's a lot of things, a lot of policy that Gary Johnson is in favor of that are not libertarian principles. So if the Libertarian Party would just get its shit together, I would vote Libertarian. I'm certainly not voting Green, but Gary Johnson is also a bad choice, and at this point in the game, there's not enough space for him to win. It's not going to happen. Gary, I don't care how much of a percentage of the vote he gets, realistically speaking, he is not going to win. It is either going to be Trump or Clinton, and right now it looks like it's going to be Clinton, and that terrifies me down to my very core. So I don't know what to do, guys. I don't know what to do. Everything's falling apart. This has probably been coming for a long time. So I'm probably going to vote Trump at the top of the ticket and Republican down ballot. Just because that's the only option that I see. If someone else has another feasible option that would work, you know, that actually has a reasonable chance of success, tell me. I will fucking take it. I don't want Trump to be president, but I damn sure don't want Hillary to be president. And if you put a gun to my head and ask me to choose which one I would prefer, Trump. I would rather have the unknown that is Donald Trump in the White House than the absolute fucking known evil Satan that is Hillary. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. The woman is the physical embodiment of Satan on earth. She is an evil fucking person. So I'm probably going to get some criticism for being all hyperbolic and shit, but I don't fucking care. I'm probably voting Trump. Unsubscribe if you have to. If you want to try and convince me otherwise, go for it. But if you want to try and convince me to vote Clinton, you're just not going to win. You're not going to do that. That's not happening. So if you can show me reasonable evidence that Gary Johnson will win, I might vote Johnson. I'm definitely not voting Stein. Stein is fucking crazy. But everything's fucked right now, guys. It's all fucked, and we should probably all just kill ourselves rather than live through this. There you go. That's my hopeful fucking political message this week. Kill yourself. It's better than this. There is no hope. Congratulations, America. You played yourself. So, with that out of the way, not doing that, we're not going back into the political shit anymore. The rest of this podcast is going to be filled with happy distractions to keep your mind off of the absolute just hellscape that is the American political process. So, there we go. So, the debate done, not talking about political shit no more. Unless it comes up in one of these. So there's something cool that I found out about. And I've got some podcast recommendations at the end of the show. Don't let me forget. But right now, I want to talk about Appendix N. And Appendix N, from what I can gather, and I haven't done a whole lot of research on this, I just read a few posts on Castalia House's blog, and I think a couple on Cirsova. Which, by the way, free plug for Cirsova. Cirsova Magazine is fucking awesome. It's Cirvos. No, wait. Hang on. Let me get the thing right here. Cirsova. Cirsova. I had to ask about the pronunciation. But it's such... I've been so starved for material like this lately. Like, my favorite type of fantasy novels and fantasy stories are sword and sorcery. That is my fucking bread and butter. Whenever I write a fantasy story, it's probably going to be sword and sorcery. But Cirsova has a bunch of different stories. It's billed as heroic fantasy and science fiction, and god damn do they deliver. It is an amazing magazine. No, I'm not being paid for this. This is just free press for these guys because I really do love their fucking product, and I think that you should all go buy the issues of the magazine that are available. Now, right now, unfortunately, it's done through, I think, CreateSpace, and published on Amazon, so it's like, you know, it's pretty big. It's, you know, it's a real fucking magazine. It's usually about 100 pages long, and unfortunately, the covers are prone to curling. So, like, you read a couple of stories, and then the covers start coming apart. Like, you've got the main bulk of the pages, and then the covers just, like, curl outwards. So I'm probably going to buy, like, I've got my copies of 1 and 2 here, that just are for reading, that if I want anybody to read Cirsova, I'll lend these to them. And I'm probably going to buy a couple of issues, you know, another copy of each, so that I can just put it away, like, on my bookshelf or something, and, you know, keep it nice for however long I'm able to. I think they're also doing, hardbacks on Lulu. I don't remember if that's the name. I got the tweet liked somewhere. I'll be able to find it. But, it's got great art on the covers. I really, really fucking love the artwork. Like, I want to get in touch with the guy who runs Cirsova and ask him if there's going to be posters of this artwork somewhere, because I would love to have this shit framed. And I don't even want, like, just the art. I want the cover of the magazine, poster size, so that I can frame it. Because the art is cool, but I'm into, like, movie posters, and this really does kind of look like a movie poster when you really look at it. And they've got advertisements. It's like one of the old school pulp magazines that they used to have way back in the day, where they publish, like, Weird Tales or something like that. And that was the intention of the guy going into it. It was like Planet Stories and Weird Tales and a couple of other magazines from way back, like, in the 30s were the inspiration for this. So this is like pre-1970s style fantasy and science fiction literature. It's not necessarily scientifically accurate, which that's my favorite kind, because I read a lot of quote-unquote scientifically accurate science fiction, and it really does get bogged down in technical details, and the stories aren't as fun as, you know, as just a good old-fashioned romp through Venus. Now we know scientifically that you can't live on Venus. There can be no colonies on Venus. Venus is essentially gas. There are no jungles on Venus. But the idea of jungles on Venus is a lot more fun than Cloud City. I've seen scientific articles speculating on the idea of basically having Cloud City on Venus. And that's a really cool idea, that would be neat. But to me, the idea of Venus being this gaseous, foggy jungle planet is a lot more appealing. And when you want to escape into a fantasy, I would prefer that kind of thing rather than a sterile operation like Cloud City from Star Wars. Mining gases and shit like that, which is basically all you would be able to do on Venus, realistically. But yeah, they've got a lot of shit in here. The table of contents is a little bit weird because they have it goes like this: an epic novella of the far future. Images of the This is issue 2. Images of the Goddess by Schuler Hernstrom. Page 57. Stories of sword, spear, and musket. And then they've got several stories in there, like page 3, page 15, page 27, and page 53. Then Shorts of the Savage Seas. And it's like page 39 and page 45. And then an essay on adventure. And they include an essay, like a nonfiction, just shit on whatever the fuck they felt like writing at the moment. And at the end of the book, the magazine, there is a dungeon. Like this one has In the Belly of the Beast, and there's a map of some kind of giant sea monster. It looks like a whale, and it's got intestinal parasite with like D&D stats, and then a description of the dungeon that you would be going through. So they give you a free D&D adventure that you can play out with your friends in every issue, and that's really, really fucking cool. And the quality of the stories is really good. Sometimes it's very surprising. Like I'm just starting in issue 2, so I can't really speak to issue 2 all that much. But the stories in issue 1 were shit that I had never heard before. Like one of my favorite stories is the first one, The Gift of the Ob Men, I believe was the name of the story. And it's about this warrior who was exiled from his village, and it's like post-apocalyptic. They live in the jungle, and he gets exiled, and he goes and meets these mushroom guys, and they give him the gift of the third eye, and they send him back to his village. And it's an actual third eye. Like, he has to keep it covered, or it shows him constant visions of the future and the past. And they give him the task of going back to his village and exterminating the humans so they can go back to the land that they once lived in. And he meets this guy in one of the old cities who's like been eating people, and it's fucking brilliant. And then there was the second story is another really good one. I can't remember the name of it. I would have to look it up. Hang on, let me This Day at Tilbury by Kat Otis was a really, really fucking good story. It was historical fiction. It was about Englishmen trying to stop the Spanish coming up a river so that they wouldn't get to the Queen. And this kid is with his dad, and his dad is like a general or something. I don't remember the exact specifics, but the family that this kid is a part of has always been able to create fire. They're pyromancers. And the kid winds up saving the day through pyromancy. And it's just so fucking good. Let's see. At the Feet of Neptune's Queen by Abraham Strongjohn is a really good... It feels like something that came out of the 1930s when people knew dick all about astronomy and other planets and shit like that. And it's a really, really fucking fun, cool-ass swashbuckling sword planet adventure romance thing. It's damn near indescribable. It's fucking awesome. Or at least to my, drunk mind. I haven't eaten in like 6 hours. Fucking sue me. So I probably shouldn't be drinking, but I'm gonna keep going. So I'm really, really fucking loving Cirsova. It's a lot of fucking fun to read. I've been starved for stories like this. Like, I grew up on, like, Dragonlance and the Forgotten Realms novels, and just all of this great sword and sorcery from, like, the 70s on. And then I got into like Michael Moorcock with the Elric books and the Hawkmoon books. This is the closest thing that I've found to those type of stories in years. And I shop around at a lot of fantasy. I read a lot of fantasy, guys. And this is some of the best that I've ever read. It just does not give a fuck about anything but having fun. Like, of course there are, you know, limits and restrictions on the stories. They have to fall into a couple of subgenres. And it's kind of tight, but the glut of good fucking fiction that you have in that, like, I want to say Rose by Any Other Name, I think was the name of the story. Yeah, this is about a guy who is trying to find his way. He's like a time traveler, and he meets this girl and a talking ape, a talking, like, silverback gorilla. And it turns out the girl isn't really human, but she's trying to act like it, and they help her find her way back to, quote-unquote, her people, and it's just a really fucking good story. Like, I've been starved for this kind of fiction for the longest fucking time. Like, no one is making this anymore. No one is making this good shit. And Cirsova is dedicated to publishing this kind of stuff. So go buy Cirsova. This is a free fucking advertisement. Y'all get free time on my fucking podcast because I love what you're doing so fucking much. I will put a link to the Amazon page and their website. So go buy this shit, guys. This is not if, and, or but. This is not, well, maybe. Go buy it. This is a definite, this has the JimFear seal of fucking approval written all over it. It's amazing stuff. And on another note, another book that you guys should pick up. And this one is just on Amazon so far as I know. Like I say, it's published through CreateSpace. It's independent. And I firmly believe in supporting independent authors, independent publishing, you know, self-publishing, all of that stuff, especially if the product is good. So you guys need to pick up Thune's Vision. THUNE' Vision by Schuler Hernstrom. Schuler is spelled SCHUYLER. Now, this is some sword and sorcery shit right here. It's a collection of stories by Schuler Hernstrom. It was just released this year. So this is like first printing type shit. It's amazing. Go buy this book. I started reading it when I was picking up my meds at the pharmacy earlier today. I was just waiting on them to fill it, and I started reading The Challenger's Garland. The Challenger's Garland is a really fucking good short story, and it doesn't pretend to be this big, you know, that's one of the things that I fucking love about Cirsova and the stories in Thune's Vision so far that I've read, is that they don't pretend to be this highbrow, you know, commentary on blah, 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 blah. Like, you could very easily make the argument that the Drizzt Do'Urden novels by R.A. Salvatore are a commentary on racism, and you would be correct. There are several stories in the Drizzt books and short story collections where he deals explicitly with the racism that Drizzt faces, simply by virtue of being a dark elf. And, you know, being one of the good ones, quote unquote. But this stuff doesn't have any high aspirations. It's not trying to make a fucking statement. These stories are trying to have fun. And that, to me, is the most important thing about any writing experience out there. Are you trying to have fun with it? Even if it's horror, even if it's science fiction, fantasy, you know, any of the speculative fiction thing, the foremost thing in your mind should be, is this story fun to read? Is this story fun to write? Are you having fun? That should be the biggest thing. And that has been so lost in modern day science fiction and fantasy. And even horror to an extent. You know, people are trying to make a statement, like Nightmare Magazine right now. And I recommend following the podcast. I'm not giving these people any of my fucking money, but I enjoy their podcasts, like Nightmare and Lightspeed. This is by Skyboat Media. But they do these people of color destroy insert genre here, where the stories aren't picked based on their quality. They're picked based on, is this guy below coffee with cream in it on the color scale? You know, is the author dark enough, essentially? And they get some really shitty stories. Like, I remember I bitched about this in my podcast when Lightspeed was doing the People of Color Destroy Science Fiction series, and they had some really, really shitty stories, like Winston Singularity, I believe it was. Let me look that one up. I want to make sure that this is the one I'm talking about. Yeah, Wilson's. Sorry, I apologize. Apologize to the author and to Lightspeed for getting the name wrong. It's Wilson's Singularity. And basically, Wilson's Singularity isn't a fun science fiction story. Even, like, you can even have science fiction stories like Philip K. Dick's Second Variety, that are explicitly cautionary tales about technology and robots and all of that other shit. It has a message. But at the same time, those stories are fun to read. It's fun to put yourself in that world. Wilson's Singularity is one of the single most boring communist propaganda pieces I have ever fucking read in my life. It is horrible. It's a terrible story because it's not fun. I can deal with a communist propaganda story. Preach whatever the fuck you feel like in your writing. I am a firm believer in free speech and the ability of artists to create whatever is meaningful to them. Okay? That is the important thing here. The first thing in your mind when you're writing something is, am I satisfied with this? Because if you're satisfied with this, there is an audience out there. There are other people. You are not alone. There are other people who will find, it might not be a lot of people, but there are other people out there who will find your work engaging. Okay? But my big concern is it fun? Is it fun? It's the same approach I take to video games. Like, Ark. Is Ark perfect? No. It's absolutely not perfect. There's a lot of optimization issues. There's a lot of bandwidth issues. There's a lot of graphical issues. It's absolutely not fucking perfect, okay? But it's fun. And for that reason, because I have so much fun playing that game, I have wasted 216 hours on playing that fucking game. Because it's fun. So with regard to writing, that's one of my primary concerns. Am I having fun listening to this story? Am I having fun reading this story? Is this something that reaches out and grabs me and draws me into the fucking world and makes me feel like I'm fucking a part of it and gives me a good connection with the characters and the plot and the world itself? Is this something that reaches out and grabs me by the throat and says, we're gonna have fun right now, motherfucker, like an Andrew WK song? That's what I'm concerned about. And Wilson's Singularity is not fun. It's boring. It is boring. It's about gay people who design an AI that takes over the fucking world and ushers in the communist utopia. That's what that fucking is. There's the story. You know, I saved you, how long is this? 4,800 words? 38 minutes? 38 and a half minutes? There you go. I saved you fucking 38 and a half minutes of your life, everybody. Woo. There you go. That's what that fucking thing is about. I couldn't even listen to the whole thing because I wasn't having fun. It was just so boring. But this shit with Cirsova and Thune's Vision and publishers like the stuff that comes out of like Castalia House, and most of the stuff on Appendix N, which I mentioned at the start of this rant before I started pimping Cirsova, those are concentrated on having fun. Those are fun stories, and that's why they're good. I mean, they're good for other reasons, but the main thing that you should think of when you're absorbing any kind of entertainment, when you're engaged in any kind of entertainment, whether it be a video game, a book, a short story, an audiobook, an audio drama, a podcast, anything that is meant to entertain you, as opposed to like, political commentary and shit like that. Is it fun? That's the big thing. If your game is not fun, like with Sunset, that game that came out that was like, actually, Bro Team has a video about Sunset, and you should go look up Bro Team Sunset video, because it perfectly encapsulates why that game fucking tanked. It tanked because it was not fun. You can have all of the artsy-fartsy statement shit that you want. The Deus Ex games have plenty of artistic value and plenty of political statements that they're trying to make. Like, just go play the second one. The second one was the one that got me into the series, Invisible War. Invisible War was fucking amazing. But you can put aside all of the political messaging and ambiguity and make up your own fucking mind about it, and just have fun playing the fucking game. You can just say, okay, I'm going to go for this faction. Like at the start of the game, you can be like, I'm going to be this character, I'm going to have this skill set, and I'm going to go for this faction, and I'm just going to roleplay that. And you can fucking have fun with it without worrying about how those themes in the game map onto real-world problems. You can just have fun with it. You don't have to think about all that heady shit, but it's there if you want it. So the fun is the most important thing. And I'm probably talking in serious circles because I haven't been this empty-stomached and drunk on a podcast in a while. Which is a shame, because I haven't really drank all that much. I should probably eat some chips, but I'm not going to. So, Appendix N. Because like I say, there was a point, like, fucking 30 minutes ago, when I started getting on this. Okay. So, here is, I'll put this in this is at digital-eel.com. So I'll put this in the description for you guys. But this is an appendix in the AD&D, the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master Guide, from 1979, the first edition. And this is how it reads. It's very short, so we're not going to be here for a while. But it says, Appendix N, Inspirational and Educational Reading. Inspiration for all the fantasy work I have done stems directly from the love my father showed when I was a tad, for he spent many hours telling me stories he made up as he went along. Tales of cloaked old men who could grant wishes, of magic rings and enchanted swords, or wicked sorcerers and dauntless swordsmen. Then, too, countless hundreds of comic books went down, and the long-gone EC ones certainly had their effect. Science fiction, fantasy, and horror movies were a big influence. In fact, all of us tend to get ample helpings of fantasy when we are very young from fairy tales such as those written by the brothers Grimm and Andrew Lang. This often leads to reading books of mythology, paging through bestiaries, and consultation of compilations of the myths of various lands and peoples. Upon such a base, I built my interest in fantasy, being an avid reader of all science fiction and fantasy literature since 1950. The following authors were of particular inspiration to me. In some cases, I cite specific works. In others, I simply recommend all their fantasy writing to you. From such sources, as well as any other imaginative writing or screenplay, you will be able to pluck kernels from which will grow the fruits of exciting campaigns. Good reading! And yes, I am going to go through all of these, because I am personally a fan of some of the authors that he mentions here, and I'm getting into others. And I've made this is like my new right now reading list. So there's Poole Anderson, 3 Hearts and 3 Lions, The High Crusade, and The Broken Sword. John Bellairs, The Face in the Frost. Leigh Brackett, Frederick Brown. Edgar Rice Burroughs, Pellucidar series, Mars series, Venus series. Lynn Carter, World's End series. L. Sprague de Camp, Lest Darkness Fall, The Fallible Friend, et alumnus. DeCamp and Pratt, Harold Shea series, The Carnelian Cube. August Derleth, Lord Dunsany. P.J. Farmer, The World of the Tears series, et alumnus. Gardner Fox, Kothar series, Kyrick series, et alumnus. Robert E. Howard, The Conan series. Sterling Lanier, Hiro's Journey, which is spelled Hiero. Fritz Leiber, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser series at alumnus, H.P. Lovecraft. A. Merritt, Creep Shadow Creep, Moonpool, Dwellers in the Mirage at alumnus. Michael Moorcock, which is someone that I'm familiar with. I mean, we're all familiar with, like, Edgar Rice Burroughs and H.P. Lovecraft, but Michael Moorcock is someone that you guys definitely want to look up. He's one of my favorite authors. Stormbringer, Stealer of Souls, Hawkmoon series, especially the first 3 books. Andre Norton, Andrew J. Offutt, editor of Swords Against Darkness 3. Fletcher Pratt, Blue Star at alumnus. Fred Saberhagen, Changeling Earth at alumnus. Margaret St. Clair, The Shadow People, Sign of the Labrys. J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, The Hobbit and the Ring trilogy. Jack Vance, The Eyes of the Overworld, The Dying Earth at alumnus. Stanley Weinbaum, Manly Wade Wellman, Jack Williamson, Roger Zelazny, Jack of Shadows, Amber series et al. The most immediate influences upon AD&D were probably DeCamp and Pratt, R.E. Howard, Fritz Leiber, Jack Vance, H.P. Lovecraft, and A. Merritt, but all of the above authors, as well as many not listed, certainly helped to shape the form of the game. For this reason, and for the hours of reading enjoyment, I heartily recommend the works of these fine authors to you. Now, apparently, and that's, E. Gary Gygax, 1979, AD&D Dungeons Master's Guide, page 224. Because we gotta have our citations, kids! So, these are, like, the original. These are the people who fucking popularized sword and sorcery, and even in the case of, like, Michael Moorcock, revolutionized sword and sorcery, because before Moorcock, most sword and sorcery was based on, like, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and especially Conan. Robert E. Howard's Conan books, where it's, like, big, muscly guys, and scantily clad women's, and they're fighting evil sorcerers, and they're saving the world, and shit like that. Meanwhile, Elric is this anemic albino. He's still like a ladies' man, but he's this anemic albino. He's weak without his sword that eats souls and gives him strength because it eats souls, and he kind of revolutionized it. So I highly recommend everything Moorcock ever wrote, ever, all of it. Go find a Moorcock book and read it, and you will not be fucking disappointed. You will enjoy it. I guarantee you. But apparently, this is like forbidden fruit within the fantasy community right now. Like, Appendix N is what the mainstream in science fiction, fantasy, and horror would like to forget. Just forget that ever happened. Because of the lack of diversity and, the lack of I guess, highbrow entertainment that's going on. Which, when I say highbrow entertainment, that means people who like to pretend they are sophisticated and erudite while writing shit that is just not fun to read. It's boring. It's a slog. It's terrible. But they have big themes in their stories. And they're commenting on real-world problems, so they're all high-minded and they're better than you. Because they put vag in their stories and shit. Which, it's not like, Robert E. Howard and people like that back in the 30s weren't putting those into their story. Like, fucking Red Sonja is a Robert E. Howard creation. She was with Conan back in the day. I've read fucking some of Howard's Conan books, and Red Sonja was there. So it's not like all of the stuff was missing from this. It's just not focus. It's not brought to the fore. The forefront is the hero and having fun. So, being the mischievous little scamp that I am, this immediately appealed to me. I just started listening, because I'm more into audiobooks. I barely have time to read anymore. But I just started listening to the Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser series, and they're great. Like, I went into this with the post-1980s view of fantasy literature, right? Like, okay, they're a barbarian and a wizard, right? I know how this is going to go. It's going to be a fun, good old heroic romp through mystical lands, and they're going to get in all kinds of trouble and shit like that. And then I start listening to it, And it turns out the Grey Mouser is not just a wizard or a sorcerer, but he is a fencer. Like, he carries a rapier and he knows how to fence, and he's, like, trained in all of these other arts. And Fafhrd, like, the story starts out about Fafhrd, the barbarian. And he's got this amazing preoccupation with civilization, because he lives with the ice tribes out on the fringes of the world. And he really wants to go south, I think, and find civilization and just get involved and have adventures and see what the fuck's up. And he's not like your typical stupid barbarian. He's actually incredibly intelligent. He's a bard. He's a skald. And it just completely fucking threw me for a loop. I had no idea any of this shit was coming. It totally subverted everything that I was expecting about this type of story. Because when you read that type of story, or when you play that type of game in like D&D or Pathfinder, the barbarian is usually the stupid, you know, I can't read, and I like breaking shit, and I got my big club here, and shit like that. We're gonna make some people hurt. But that's how you expect barbarians to be. But even like quote unquote Conan the Barbarian, Conan was well read. He could read. He had a lot of intelligence. He was a king, for fuck's sake. You know, and in Dimension Bucket Magazine, since some of the Conan stories are in public domain, we're going to be doing audio adaptations of some of the Conan stories. I think the first one is The Phoenix on the Sword, and that's the one that we're going to start with. And we're probably going to break that up, maybe release it as its own audiobook, but part of it will be in the podcast. I hope to read that one because I really, really like the Conan stories. Like I say, this shit right here, this Appendix N thing, is my bread and butter. I've been starved for this shit for years now. Pretty much since high school, when for whatever reason, I stopped reading the Dragonlance books, I stopped reading the Forgotten Realms novels, and I just started getting into other shit, you know? But this kind of shit is what I would like to see come back, because there's not enough of it right now. And that's why I support publications like Cirsova and writers like Schuler Hernstrom, because they are doing this right now, and it's just as good as it was back in the day. Scientific accuracy be fucking damned. This is fun. This is good shit. And I highly recommend the stuff that I've read. Like, I've read some August Derleth. I think I read the quote-unquote collaboration that he did with H.P. Lovecraft. Let me actually look up the title of it. It was like The Watcher on the Doorstep or something. The Lurker at the Threshold. That was it. The Lurker at the Threshold. Now, this was published posthumously. H.P. Lovecraft was dead by the time that this was published. So basically what Derleth did was he went and he took notes that H.P. Lovecraft had for the story The Lurker at the Threshold, and it wasn't complete. He had bits and pieces. He had some notes. And Derleth extrapolated badly. I mean, it was still, if I remember right, it was still fun to read. It wasn't horrible, but when put into context with the rest of the Cthulhu Mythos canon, it really did not fit. He got a lot of shit wrong. But it still wasn't bad, and if you're into H.P. Lovecraft style stories, I recommend that, but just know there's far more Derleth in that one than there is Lovecraft. But other people on this list, like Fritz Leiber, I very much enjoy Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. I very much enjoyed the horror story that I want to say Nightmare Magazine did. Let me see, was that? Maybe it wasn't Nightmare Magazine. Maybe it was Pseudopod. That was it. It was Pseudopod episode 500, A Bit of the Dark World. That story was great. That was some of the best horror I've ever heard. I absolutely fucking loved it. So yeah, check that one out. You know what? I'll fucking put a link to that. I'm gonna have to make a lot of notes about what I'm putting in the fucking description. But A Bit of the Dark World was great. That shows Liber's horror side really well. It's a good example. I don't remember much about the narration. It didn't really stand out to me, but the story was good. I remember liking the story a lot. Like I said, Michael Moorcock. There's Tolkien, Zelazny, of course. Now, I'm not really all that familiar with Zelazny. I know that he's a fucking legend, but the only thing that I've had read by Zelazny was a collaboration that he did with Philip K. Dick, which was Deus Irae, God of Wrath, I think is the translation. And that was a really, really fucking good book. Of course, there's Edgar Rice Burroughs, one of the foundations of just adventure fiction in general. So go read these guys, man. Like, they have audiobooks out of all of this stuff. You can find all of this on Amazon. A lot of it is probably in public domain, so you can probably find it for free on the internet and just, like, sit at your computer and fucking read it. I recommend it highly. And the idea that this is kind of subversive nowadays because of the quote-unquote progressive agenda in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Spearheaded by people like Lightspeed Magazine and Nightmare Magazine, which is basically just Skyboat Media. Go read this shit if you want to have a good time. If you want to get turned on your ear. If you want to find out what it was really like back in the day. What fiction was really like back in the day. And like I say, if you just want to have a good time, go read this shit. This shit is fun. Okay. So I think I'm just about done here with the whole Appendix N thing. So a couple of podcasts that I wanted to recommend to you guys that I recently found. The first one is Sable. It's on iTunes. I'm not really sure what else they're on, but Sable is really good. It's a good story. The guy doesn't necessarily have the best voice, but that's utterly forgivable because I listen to a lot of Pseudopod and a lot of Podcastle and things like that. Just these story podcasts where they get narrators that just sometimes they just really suck. Like, I mean, really suck. Like, the quality can vary pretty widely from episode to episode with regards to escape artist narrators. But this guy, Lane Lloyd, I believe is his name. He really loves this story. He writes it himself. It's all one guy. It's just him. He writes and narrates it himself, and he does a damn fine job. Especially when he hasn't done this before. Well, so far as, like, the narration thing goes. To my knowledge, the guy's not a voice actor. If I had known about this when it was first starting out, as opposed to, like, halfway through its second season, I would have approached him and offered to read it for him. But that's just because voice acting is kind of one of those things that I do now. It's like, like, what are your skills? And I'm like fucking Robin Williams in Mrs. Doubtfire. I do voices. What do you mean you do voices? I mean, I do voices. And then it just runs off on this whole fucking list of different voices that he does, and it's one of the funniest scenes in that fucking movie. And it really shows how talented Robin Williams was. But Sable is about this town, and weird shit happens in the town. And the first season is a bit hard to follow. That might be because I was listening to it while I was playing video games. Specifically Ark, which Ark doesn't have background music and shit like that, just sound effects. So it's kind of easy to keep up with it, but it's a little bit hard to follow. But once you get what's going on, it's fucking mind-blowing, guys. It's amazing. Go listen to Sable. Go listen to Sable. You will not regret this. It's absolutely worth your fucking time. Now, like I say, they're about halfway through their second season. I think they're on like episode 8 or something like that. So you're going to have some catching up to do, but the catching up that you have to do is absolutely a pleasant time. It's a lot of fun. The guy's really into like body horror, so there's descriptions of just really nasty shit happening to people. It's horror. It's absolutely a horror podcast. And I'm really impressed with the guy's writing. It's really, really fucking well put together. And the audio quality is not bad either. I mean, it's not anywhere near, like, you know, oh, this was made in a professional studio by a team that's been doing this for 20 fucking years and shit like that. But it's not quite as good as the shit that I put out, but it's not bad either. It's absolutely listenable. Put it like that. Nothing about the audio quality or the dude's voice is enough to put me off of it. You know, because the story is so fucking good. Now, it would be nice if it were a fully voiced and, you know, sound effects and music audio drama, but the guy doesn't have that kind of budget, and that's perfectly fine. It works. It fucking works the way it is. And I really, really enjoy it. Crow is one of my favorite fucking characters. It is absolutely heartbreaking. The end of the first season is absolutely fucking heartbreaking. I was almost driven to tears, guys. And I don't get emotional about shit entertainment that I take in. I don't get emotional about the things that I read or watching movies. There's very few movies out there that can drag a tear out of me. Sable almost made me break down and cry. It was fucking heartrending. So yes, absolutely. If you're one of those people who plays Doom on Hurt Me Plenty, go listen to Sable. You will fucking love it. Just like I do. I just can't fucking get enough. I can't wait until I get another chance to actually play video games so I can just pull up iTunes and just get caught up on Sable so I can start listening to it as it comes out. It's fucking nectar, guys. Go listen to Sable. I'll put that link in the description too. You guys should absolutely check this out. And once again, I don't get paid for any of this. I just listen to a lot of shit and I tell you guys the things that I like. So that, because I think you guys might like it. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably have tastes that run similar to my own, so you might like this too, and I really want to spread the word on shit like this. So, another one. Cryptid creatures. And this guy, like, just started out a few weeks ago. He's only up to, like, episode 6, I think. But basically, it's a, if you listen to the Lore podcast with Aaron Mankey, then this is kind of like the Lore podcast, just a lot more tightly focused on cryptid monsters in America. So, like, Bigfoot, the Scape Ore Swamp Lizard Man from South Carolina. Woo! Fucking my home state, my favorite fucking cryptid was, like, episode 5 or 6. I loved that fucking episode. I've been a fan of the Lizard Man since I was a little kid, man. Like, real little kid. Like, I remember going into the library and looking in the kids section, and they actually had a little fiction book about the Lizard Man. And I would have to actually go to the library and look it up. But, yeah, I remember really fucking loving the Lizard Man. Lizard Man's one of my favorite fucking cryptids. And he gets into, stuff like the Pukwudgie, which is up north. It's like this little porcupine man kind of thing. They're tricksters, and he breaks it down a lot better than I will off of just memory. So yeah, go check out Cryptid Creatures. And the guy's also got some books out. I haven't read his books yet. If I do, I'll be sure to pimp them if I enjoy them. But I really do enjoy Cryptid Creatures. The guy puts a lot of research and scholarship into, well, as much scholarship as you can get with cryptids. And I don't necessarily believe in any of this shit, but it's fun to entertain the idea. And like I say, I go to this type of podcast looking to be entertained, not looking for scientific exactitude. You know, I would listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson ruin everybody's childhood and everything that everybody ever fucking believed in if I wanted scientific exactness in my podcast. I just want to hear a cool fucking story about a neat monster that, you know, I could feasibly road trip across America and go to oh, that's where they saw the Mothman. Or, you know, something like that. You know, that's where the bridge was that the Mothman first appeared over. You know, I could road trip across America and visit all of these places that he's talking about with all of these monsters out there. And he doesn't necessarily go for the big ones. Like, of course, there's big cryptids like Bigfoot or Mothman or, you know, what have you, the really big name famous ones, the Jersey Devil, that kind of shit. He doesn't necessarily go for these immediately. Like, the first 5 episodes or so, apart from the Lizard Man one, were monsters that I had never fucking heard of. Just, I had no idea that these legends were fucking out there. Except for the Pukwudgie, because the guy from Myths and Legends does a Monster of the Week thing. And, like, a week before I listened to the Pukwudgie episode of Cryptid Creatures, the creature of the week on Myths and Legends was the Pukwudgie. So, but it was still fucking enjoyable. It was still good shit. He got into a lot more detail about the Pukwudgie than the Myths and Legends guy did. Because, I mean, you got to think about it. Myths and Legends podcast, which you should all go listen to that too. But I'm not here to pimp them right now. Myths and Legends podcast does a creature of the week. It's like 3 to 5 minutes long. Is a presentation about the creature that he's decided to talk about. And an episode of Cryptid Creatures is like 20 to 30 to 40 minutes long. I don't think he's actually hit 40 yet. But it's a lot of really good research. It's a lot of fun stories about these monsters that might be running around in North America and shit like that. It's really fucking cool, guys. Go listen to Cryptid Creatures. That's another one that's got the Jim Fear seal of approval. And now, the final podcast that I wanted to recommend to you guys is hang on. Let me actually look it up. Okay, this is by Audio Oblivious Productions, which they're at the Eagle Screech on Twitter. Oh yeah, Sable is on Twitter as well as at Sable Podcast, and the author himself is at the Lane Lloyd, 2 L's on Lloyd. And Cryptid Creatures is on Twitter as well as at Crypt Creatures. So just like crypt, like an interment spot, and then creatures. So at Crypt Creatures. But these guys are Audio Oblivious Productions, and they are at the Eagle Screech. Which is not actually an eagle screech. That's a common misconception. That, you know, that high-pitched bird screech that people associate with eagles because it's just been brought up in media so often. That's not actually an eagle. That is a red-tailed hawk. Eagles do not sound like that. Fun fact for you for today. That's not an eagle. That's a red-tailed hawk. But the eagle screech sounds a lot better than the red-tailed hawk screech. But I digress. Winnebago Warrior, The Tale of John Waynaby. Now, this is a really funny... It doesn't have anything to do with, like, horror or anything like that. It's just a comedy podcast. It's fully voiced, and the voice actors do a great job. I'm really, really impressed with the quality of the voice acting. And most of the time, the quality of the audio that they bring to the table. It's obvious that these people are working with professional equipment, and it's about a guy who watched, like, the theme song kind of breaks it down, but he remembers these good times with his dad, and they watched a lot of westerns, so he traded in his beat up Pinto for a shiny new RV. And now he's heading west from Kentucky. He's heading west to help people in need and find souvenirs. And it's a really funny show. Like, there's a couple of things that they do that wear on my nerves a little bit. Not enough to put me off of the show. It's just like, all right, that joke's a little bit tired. Like, they do shit where the announcer, the narrator, will come on and be like, and then John wandered into the coffee shop, and he was looking for a new mocha latte to replace the one that had just been spilled. And then he'll walk into the coffee shop, and you'll hear, like, the ding over the door. They're really, really good with their audio engineering. It really does... it really is a well-produced audio drama. I cannot fault them at all on that score. So he'll walk in and the narrator will say something like that, and then, you know, it'll be like, oh, John, what are you doing here? And he'll be like, well, I just walked into this coffee shop to replace the latte that had just been spilled. He'll say the exact line that the narrator just got done saying. And they do that with several characters. It's not just John Waynaby that says stuff like that. It just kind of happens. And it happens a lot. That's like my only grievance with this show. Other than that, it's really fucking funny. You guys should absolutely go and check out. It's not going to be for everybody. I can tell you that right now. Some people are going to get tired of it fast. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. I catch every episode. I got caught up quick, and they just got done with their season finale for season 1. So I assume they're in production on season 2. But the characters are all really good. They're really well voiced. The writing is pretty good, except for certain things like that thing I mentioned. The audio production is really well done. You feel like you're in the scene. Like Graphic Audio has a... If you're not hooked up with Graphic Audio, go look up Graphic Audio. But their tagline is, a movie in your mind. And it really is like that. It really is a movie in your mind. Like, you can see what's happening in your mind just by what's going on in the... They do a lot... They put a lot of effort into their sound design. And it shows. And the show really, really does shine because of the effort that you can tell that they put in. So, yeah. That'll be linked in the description as well. Go look up Winnebago Warrior, The Tale of John Waynaby. It's good shit, guys. It's good shit. It's not going to be for everybody, but I really fucking enjoy it. I like that show. The guys who run it, the guys who run like their Twitter and everything, it seem like really nice people. And they're doing what they fucking love. And how can you not want to support someone like that? So go check that one out. Like I say, I'll link to their Libsyn, and you guys can go listen to the first episode. But yeah, okay. I think that's the end of the podcast, guys. We've been going on for like 23 minutes. Probably closer to like 15 for you guys. I don't know, maybe like 17 or something. But that's about it. I've rambled on enough. So I will catch all of you guys next week. Be sure to look at one thing that I did want to mention. At Dimension Bucket Magazine, we are putting off episode 5 purposefully. We are putting off episode 5 until Halloween, and we are doing a massive Halloween special. The show is going to be like fucking 3 hours long. It's going to have all kinds of shit. We're doing a collaboration with the Laughably Dapper people. They're going to be voice acting in some of the stories. Some of them, there's going to be like fully produced audio dramas in this, not just one guy reading a script with sound effects and music. Actual voices from people that I know and have like tied up and hidden in my basement and beaten with a steel chair until they agreed to voice characters in this podcast. So the Halloween episode is going to be fucking awesome. You guys are going to abso-fucking-lutely love it. So look out for that. I just want to let you guys know before you're like, I thought you guys were getting on a bi-monthly schedule. After Halloween, we will move over to the bi-monthly schedule. Bucket has settled down. He is moved in, basically. He's still working on getting that job, but he has a lot of time to work on things like the podcast. So we're going to be getting on that. We're just putting off the Halloween episode so that we can bring you guys a kick-ass, spectacular Halloween episode. Because if we put out the regular show, it would be like 5 or 8 days before Halloween, and it wouldn't be nearly as cool as doing a Halloween spectacular. And we're all like, Halloween is our favorite time of year for everybody at Dimension Bucket Magazine. Well, so far as me and Chris and Connor go. So we're gonna do a kick-ass Halloween special collaboration with the Laughably Dapper peeps, and you guys are absolutely gonna love it. I can already tell you. Trust me, it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge. You could believe me. Believe me. I've seen a lot of podcasts. I've seen a lot of Halloween specials, and none of them will compare to what we are going to do here. We're going to make Halloween great again. You can trust me on that. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I love you all very dearly. I appreciate you taking time out of your finite lives to listen to the ramblings of this particular drunken asshole. I hope that you all enjoyed the podcast. I really hope that you all will go and check out the things that I recommended to you, because they are kick-ass, guys. They give me a lot of enjoyment in my personal life, and I think that they'll give you guys a lot of enjoyment too. So go check out the links in the description, man. It'll be down there. Go look all of this shit up. And I will catch y'all next week. Peace out.